Hi, in the last few episodes we did already create some models and you should already have a sense on how to model in general. In this episode we go a bit further and add coloring to our models. In most cases I use one of three different methods to color my models, based on how and where they will be used. I am Steve from Steve3D, your indie development and game art channel. You are watching my Learning Blender tutorial series. This is a full course for learning Blender, teaching you everything you need to know. To demonstrate these three methods, I duplicate the table with Shift-T to create two additional copies. The first method is using materials. I highly recommend activating the Material Utilities add-on. For this, click on the Edit menu, select Preferences, select Add-ons and search for Material Utilities. Ensure that it is enabled. This enables you to use Shift-Q to set materials. At the top we click on Shading to go to the Shading view. Since this is the first time we use this view, let me do a short introduction. At the top center you can see how our objects look when materials are applied. At the moment it should be gray only. At the center bottom you see the material editor. This shows you all the nodes that create your current material. In the properties panel on the right, we have a material property which we click. Here you can see the slots we have on our model. Down here you can also add new materials if you want to. I select a countertop and then I click New. We now have a new material. You can already see that the material is assigned to our slot on the right side. The name is set here as well. And you see two material nodes at the bottom center. By default we have a principal BSDF and a material output node. This is the most basic material you can have. There is two properties that are important for us at the moment. This is the base color and the roughness. The base color defines the color that is applied to your model. The roughness defines reflectiveness of the material. It takes values between 0 and 1. 0 means it is reflective like a polished metal. 1 means it doesn't reflect any light. First I click here to rename the material and I name it something like medium brown wood. I select the medium brown in the color wheel. For the roughness I choose 0. You can already see how reflective the countertop is. Now I set it to 1 and you can see there are no reflections anymore. For wood I normally use something like 0.75. To use the same material on our feet, I select them, then I use this drop down here to select the material we have created. You might now wonder, what if you want a single face to use a different color? This is where slots come in. We click here on the slots, then I click plus and add a new one. Then I create a new material by clicking here. I call it light brown wood. Then I select a color for it and I set the roughness as well. We now have a new slot with a new color, but nothing changed. This is because there are no faces of our model assigned to our slot. To change this we have to go into edit mode by pressing Tab. Then press 3 to switch to face selection. I now select the top face of the countertop. Then I open the drop down for the slot. Here I select the second slot where the second color is assigned. Then I click the Assign button here. Now the top has applied another color than the rest of our countertop. This approach of coloring your models works best if you don't mind the calculation time that is needed. In general, materials are computed at runtime and therefore they need more resources than other methods, especially when you use complex materials. They come in handy if they are used in a pre-rendered scenes like cutscenes or movies. If you want to use them in a game engine, you probably have to create them in the game engine as well, because game engines often use their own kind of material system. You have also to keep in mind that the game engine has to load all the materials you use. In general, this is considered to be a low performance solution in games. However, it doesn't mean that you can't do it that way. I personally recommend this only for scenes rendered in Blender like cutscenes, showcases or movies. That being said, there is a better method out there to achieve this, and we will learn how to do this now. For this approach we need a simple picture containing all the colors we want to use. I have created a simple PNG file containing the two brown colors as well as a gradient between these two colors. In order to follow this tutorial, you should create your own PNG file now, containing at least 2 color blocks with different colors. My color blocks are 10 by 10 pixels, but you can use a different size if you want. I ensure that I'm in object mode, then I select the countertop of the second table. I create a new material for it. In the material properties on the right side in the surface section you can see the base color. I click on the yellow point in front of the base color. Here I choose Image Texture. This will add a new node to our material. We could also have added it here as well by using Shift A. This new node replaces our base color. You can also see that the color of the countertop already changed. I click Open to select the PNG picture containing the color block that we have created before. After setting the texture file, you can see that the texture is applied to our model because the countertop changed the color again. Now we have to change the mapping on the file to fix the wrong color that we see at the moment. For this I click on UV editing at the top of our view. On this view on the left side you see a 2D projection of the selected object. You can think of this like a sheet of paper that is painted and afterwards wrapped around the object so that you can see only the painted surface of this sheet. The right part of the screen shows our model. Be aware that by default this shows your object in solid mode, which means in a gray color without your actual coloring. To see the material you have to change this to material preview in the right upper corner. Another thing that you see is that the 2D projection on the sheet doesn't really match to our current object shape. For this tutorial it is okay, but for a more in-depth knowledge of what this means and how to make the painting visible and fix it, I recommend you to watch my in-depth tutorial, which is linked at the end of this video. The projection of our table is not within the color block, so the color we apply at the moment is from the white part of my picture. Next we have to fit the 2D projection here into our color block. On the UV map I press A to select all, S to scale and then I scale it down. G for grab, then I move it onto one of the color blocks. You can see how the color changes based on where I move the projection. For the feet I go back to object mode by pressing Tab. Then I select the feet, I press Shift Q and I assign the material we created for our texture file. When I select parts of the foot you can see it in the projection. I select all and scale them down. G for grab and I move them into a color box. Done. As you can see, I have created a third box containing a color gradient. I scale them up a little bit. I select only the sides of our feet and I use G to grab them and move them into the third color box. You can see we have a color gradient on our feet. S for scale to resize it a little bit. I rotate it with R. Then I use G to refine the position. Using this we can emulate shadows without having to put extra effort into it. This approach is considered good for games since it's resource friendly because you need only a single material in memory. It is also a fast way to do it because you have to create only a single material in Blender and one in your game engine using the same texture to have colored models in both programs. However, if you want to do cutscenes or movies, I would prefer the first solution in most situations over this one. Now let's take a look at the third method, texture painting. In this video I will do only a short introduction on how to do this. At the end of the video I will link a card to the next video in this series, as well as a link to a detailed step-by-step tutorial for texture painting. If there are no videos linked at the moment, this means that the videos aren't released yet. In this case, you should consider to subscribe, like and press the bell button to get a notification when the videos go live. Now back to texture painting. I ensure that I am in object mode, I select the object and then I press Shift Q. I click on New Material, I name it Painted Table. I go to the Material tab in the Properties panel. If it shows the material of the old object, like it does for me, deselect and select the table again. I click on the yellow bullet near the base color and I select Image Texture. I click on New and give it a name. You can already see that the feet did change their color. When I select everything, you see the unwrap didn't do a good job here. The projection of my model is overlapping and we will do the unwrap again. Right click, then I choose UV Unwrap Faces, and in the submenu I select Smart UV Project. I select an island margin of 0.05. The value for island margin defines how far away different mesh units are placed on the texture. At the top we click on Texture Painting. In the Texture Paint mode we have a new set of tools. The first is Draw. We use this as a default to draw on our model. The second one is Soften. This is used to soften hard color changes, means you are blending colors together. Smear is similar to softening, but instead of blending, you are smearing colors around. This is used if you want to change the color proportions on your model. We also have a Fill tool to quickly apply a base color to our model. When texture painting, I also recommend to use a color palette. You can find it in the Properties panel on the right. I select a brown color like this one. We fill everything and we are more or less done. I click on the Draw tool. The properties for radius and strength are at the top. Radius defines the radius of our brush, means how thick will our strokes be. Strength defines how opaque our stroke is. 0 means it's almost transparent and 1 means it's totally opaque. Blender is set up to use pressure sensitive pens, so I highly recommend to use a drawing tablet for this. You can try this with a mouse, and it's totally possible, but do yourself a favor and use a drawing tablet. So that's the 3 main methods I use to colorize my models. Before I end this video, it's time to give you some work to do until I release my next one, so that you can practice what you have learned today. I think the choice is fairly simple. I want you to select a method of your choice to apply colors to all models we created so far in this video series. I will see you in the next episode, and if this video was helpful for you, please give me a thumbs up. Bye!